There's something about meeting someone who feels like they've stepped right out of your dreams. That's how it was with him. The moment our eyes met, it felt like fate, or at least something close enough to believe in. He smiled like he already knew me, spoke like he had memorized the pages of my soul. And I fell. Not slowly, not cautiously, but all at once, like I'd been waiting my entire life to be caught by someone just like him. He mirrored my thoughts. My fears. My passions. We had the same taste in music, the same childhood memories, the same hopes about growing old somewhere quiet and meaningful. He said he'd never met someone who made him feel seen. And I believed him. Because when you're desperate to be understood, you'll ignore the echo and convince yourself it's a voice. The first few weeks were a blur of warmth and discovery. He texted every morning. Called every night. Sent me songs that felt like love letters. He remembered everything I told him, my favorite coffee, the scar on my knee, the way I hold my breath when I'm nervous. It felt like someone had finally paused long enough to study me. And it was intoxicating. But then, something shifted. The texts became shorter. The calls came later, or not at all. When I asked if something was wrong, he'd sigh and say, "You're overthinking again." It was always me. My sensitivity. My questions. My inability to just go with the flow. Still, he never fully left. He always gave just enough to keep me tethered. A sweet message after a cold silence. A thoughtful gift after an argument. And I held on to those moments like life rafts, convincing myself they meant more than they did. I started changing without realizing it. I stopped sharing my opinions unless I knew he'd agree. I second-guessed my instincts. I apologized for feelings I hadn't even voiced yet. I bent until I barely recognized my own spine. One night, I found a message on his phone. From another woman. It was intimate. Familiar. Heartbreaking. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He didn't explain. He just stared at me and said, it didn't mean anything. But it meant everything to me. I cried for days. Not just because of the betrayal, but because I had given so much of myself to someone who only ever gave an illusion in return. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was a kind of grief, the loss of a future I had built in my mind, brick by brick, with someone who never intended to stay. I tried to leave, but he knew how to pull me back. He'd show up with tears. With promises. With all the right words. He'd tell me I was his person. That he was just scared. That he'd change. And I wanted to believe him. But the truth was, he didn't want me. He wanted the version of me that made him feel loved, important, adored. He didn't love me, he loved how my love made him feel. The final straw came months later. A friend sent me a screenshot. Another woman. Same messages. Same promises. Same soulmate story. That night, I blocked his number. I deleted our photos. I sat on my bedroom floor and let myself shatter. And then I started to rebuild. Not all at once. Not with grace. But piece by piece, moment by moment. I started journaling. Therapy. Long walks. I surrounded myself with people who didn't need me to shrink to be loved. And slowly, I began to see the manipulation for what it was, not romance, not destiny, but control. There's something empowering about silence. Not the silence that comes from fear or avoidance, but the kind that rises from knowing you owe nothing to the past anymore. That kind of silence feels like standing in the sun after years of living in the shade. It warms you slowly. Gently. And then all at once, you realize how cold you had become just to survive. After I ignored his message, I felt a ripple of peace. There was no victory dance, no dramatic monologue. Just peace. And in that stillness, I realized how far I had come. I wasn't the same woman who used to wait by the phone. I wasn't the woman who rationalized red flags or made excuses for bad behavior. I was someone new. Healing had reshaped me. It wasn't linear. There were days I stumbled. Days I missed the illusion of what we had. But now, I had something stronger than longing. I had clarity. And clarity doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It simply sees things for what they are. I started journaling regularly. Not just about him, but about me. Who I was becoming. What I wanted. What I feared. What I needed to unlearn. The pages became a safe space to unravel the knots inside me. And slowly, I began writing not just to heal, but to dream. I dreamed of a life that didn't revolve around being chosen. A life that honored my voice, my passions, my boundaries. A life where I didn't shrink myself to fit into someone else's world. I enrolled in a course I'd always wanted to take. I joined a book club. I redecorated my space. I bought myself flowers for no reason at all. These weren't grand gestures, they were small rebellions against the version of me that once thought love meant sacrifice without reciprocation. Friends noticed the change. They said I laughed more. That my eyes sparkled again. That I had a calmness about me that wasn't there before. I smiled when they said that. Because I knew it wasn't just about moving on from him. It was about coming home to myself. There's a strange freedom in realizing you don't need closure from the one who hurt you. That the final word doesn't need to come from them. That healing isn't something they can offer or deny you. It's yours. Entirely. Sometimes, I revisit the old texts. Not to torture myself, but to remember. To remind myself of what I tolerated. Of how far I've come. I read his promises, his pet names, his future plans, and I feel nothing but gratitude. Because without him, I wouldn't have found this version of me. And maybe that's the cruel irony of heartbreak, it destroys you, then introduces you to who you're meant to be. There's still a scar. Of course there is. But it doesn't throb anymore. It's just there. A quiet reminder. A line in my story. If I could speak to the woman I was back then, I'd tell her this: you're not crazy. You're not too much. You're not hard to love. You were just loving someone who never intended to hold your heart gently. And to anyone out there, sitting in the ruins of a love that was never real, please hear me. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to miss what you thought you had. But you're also allowed to let go. To stop searching for answers. To choose peace over closure. Because sometimes, the biggest revenge isn't becoming colder or harder. It's becoming softer, kinder, and more yourself than you've ever been. You are not what they did to you. You are what you rise from. Sometimes, I still think about how different things could have been if he had just been honest from the beginning. But then I realize, the lie wasn't an accident, it was the foundation. The illusion wasn't something that cracked under pressure, it was designed to be temporary, to serve his ego, his loneliness, his emptiness. And I was just the mirror he needed to feel whole for a while. But I am not a mirror. I am a whole person. The day I truly forgave myself for falling for him was the day I stopped blaming myself for being hopeful, for being open-hearted, for wanting to believe in something real. There is no shame in believing in love. The shame belongs to those who use that belief for manipulation. And here's what they never tell you: it takes more strength to walk away from a fantasy than to stay in it. Because fantasy feels safe. It feels beautiful. It wraps around you like a warm lie. But reality, the raw, unfiltered, inconvenient truth, is where healing begins. It's where you stop surviving and start living. I no longer need to tell his story to understand mine. He was a chapter. A loud, destructive, unforgettable chapter. But not the whole book. I look at love differently now. Not with fear, but with wisdom. I trust actions more than words. I value consistency over charm. I know now that love isn't about butterflies or grand declarations, it's about presence, safety, and emotional responsibility. And I've learned to give all those things to myself. When I meet someone new, I don't look for a soulmate. I look for a partner. Someone who doesn't want to fix me or break me, but build something with me. Someone who doesn't just want to be loved, but knows how to love in return. Because I am no longer available for anything less. This story may have started with betrayal, but it ends in reclamation. In rediscovery. In resilience. He pretended to be my soulmate. But in losing him, I found the one person who had been missing all along, myself. And if you've made it this far, if you've seen yourself in these words, if you're still nursing wounds that no one else sees, know this, you're not alone. Your pain is real. But so is your power. You are worthy of a love that doesn't come with conditions or performance or masks. You are worthy of a love that begins with you. So take your time. Rebuild slowly. Speak kindly to your scars. And when you're ready, open your heart again, not to find someone who completes you, but someone who celebrates the completeness you've already found. If this story touched something in you, consider subscribing. Your journey matters, and I'd be honored to share more of it with you. 14.1 He pretended to be my soulmate, it was all a lie. The first time he told me he loved me, it wasn't in some candlelit restaurant. It was Tuesday. Rain slapped against the windows of his cramped studio apartment while I burned microwave popcorn. He took the bag from my hands, looked straight into my soul, and said, "I've been waiting my whole life to find you." Lightning flashed outside. His eyes held mine like a vow. I didn't know then that lightning only reveals what's already broken. He remembered everything. The scar on my knee from when I was 7. My grandmother's maiden name. That I put hot sauce on vanilla ice cream before I ever told him. When I cried on my father's death anniversary, he recited my dad's favorite fishing story word for word. How? I whispered, tears mixing with awe. He brushed my cheek. Souls recognize their own history. The cracks were hairline fractures at first. My friend Emma saw him at a jazz club he'd sworn he hated. Must have been my twin, he joked, feeding me strawberries. His ex slid into my DMs, check his left hip. That night, tracing scars on his skin, I felt raised ink under my fingertips. What's this anchor tattoo? His laugh was smooth as bourbon. College mistake, babe. Covered it years ago. But the lines were crisp. Fresh. Then came the notebook. Slipped from his gym bag when I grabbed his keys. Black leather. Unmarked. My hands trembled turning pages filled with me. Father died age 14 abandonment trauma. Coffee, oat milk, 2 sugars, 158 degrees Fahrenheit. Triggers, raised voices, lilac perfume, Paul Simon's Graceland. Key phrase, souls recognize their own history. My blood turned to ice. Flipping back, other names. Sarah. Lena. Priya. Each with lists, timelines, conquest dates. A blueprint for counterfeit love. The shower stopped. He emerged, steam curling around him like smoke. Saw the notebook in my hands. For half a heartbeat, his eyes went flat. Empty. Like doll's eyes. Then warmth flooded back, so convincing I almost believed it. Sweetheart, he breathed, pulling me close, that's my therapy journal. I let him hold me. Buried my face in the damp cotton of his shirt. Smelled the lye on his skin. That night, while he slept, I made a choice. I'd become the perfect fool. Smile wider. Laugh louder. Hold him tighter. Because now I needed to know, if this was poison, why did my body still crave the taste? I started noticing the machinery behind the magic. How spontaneous compliments arrived exactly when work stress spiked. How he'd gently gaslight me about plans, we never said Thursday, love, then comfort me for overreacting. Once, after I cried during a fight, he took a photo of the sunset behind my tear-streaked face. So beautiful when you're vulnerable. The app changed everything. His phone buzzed while he made coffee, day 143, phase 3 initiated. My thumb hovered. Swiped. Cold dread pooled in my stomach. A clinical dashboard glowed. Trust meter, 98%. Dependency, high. Isolation progress, complete. My smiling photo beside chat logs with users named Hunter_01, Echo_7. Subject emotionally dependent. Recommend financial entanglement. Schedule affection withdrawal Tuesday. Document distress levels. Asset value, high, inheritance potential. The coffee machine hissed. I placed the phone back, pulse roaring in my ears. When he handed me the mug, oat milk, 2 sugars, I whispered, "Let's open a joint account." His lips brushed my forehead. Perfect. I tasted bile. I became a double agent. Fed him false data. Mentioned a fake allergy to tulips. Accidentally left fake therapy notes about daddy issues. He arrived next day with tulips to face your fears. Held me extra tight during thunderstorms. His precision was terrifying. Then I dangled the bait. My grandma left me $200,000, I murmured over cheap wine. Trust releases it, after marriage. His glass froze midair. Saw the calculation, the hunger, flash behind his eyes before the mask snapped back. 3 days later, he proposed under our oak tree. The ring matched my secret Pinterest board exactly. At the engagement party, his best friend clinked a glass, to real love. I watched his phone light up with a notification, asset secured. Initiate discard phase. I excused myself. Locked the bathroom door. Stared at my reflection, the sparkling ring, the perfect fiancé smile. And wondered, when he looked at me, did he see a person? Or just the final step in someone else's script? The answer came faster than I expected. That night, drunk on champagne and deception, he left his laptop open. I clicked the encrypted folder labeled Legacy. And found the videos. Dozens. Women crying. Begging. One screaming, "Why did you make me love you?" while he calmly recorded her breakdown. The timestamp on the last video was yesterday. His voice echoed from the hallway, cheerful, "Ready for bed, future wife?" I slammed the laptop shut. My hands didn't shake. They were stone. Because finally, I understood. This wasn't just a lie. It was a hunting trophy. I pasted on the smile I'd practiced in mirrors. Just washing off the champagne, I called back, flushing the toilet for cover. My reflection stared back, pale, wide-eyed, a trapped animal wearing an engagement ring. Future wife. The words tasted like ash. That night, I let him hold me. His breathing slowed into sleep while I lay rigid, replaying the videos. The women's faces blurred into a single scream, "Why did you make me love you?" I counted his steady heartbeats against my spine. 1, 2, 3. Each thump a lie. At 3:17 a.m., I slid from bed. His laptop glowed in the dark kitchen like a poisonous flower. Password? I typed our anniversary. Denied. His mother's birthday. Denied. Then, Soulmate 1. The folder opened. Project Legacy wasn't just videos. It was a library of pain. Dossiers on 27 women with psychological autopsies. Audio recordings of sobbing phone calls labeled post-discard collapse. Spreadsheets tracking emotional yield versus resource investment. A manifesto, love is the ultimate control matrix. The subject's vulnerability becomes your architecture. The discard protocol chilled me. Phase 1, fabricate infidelity, plant evidence. Phase 2, gaslight into mental breakdown. Phase 3, secure assets amid instability. My name headed the newest file. Target date, 3 weeks post-wedding. I copied everything. Emailed it to a ghost account. Deleted the sent folder. My hands moved with surgical calm. Inside? A silent earthquake. He stirred at dawn. "You're up early, Angel." His sleep-rough voice still made my traitor heart clench. Couldn't sleep, I whispered, pouring coffee, oat milk, 2 sugars, 158 degrees Fahrenheit. Thinking about honeymoon locations. His smile was a knife. Anywhere with you is paradise. I spent engagement bliss playing chess with the devil. Smiled through cake tastings while planning my vanish. Redirected paychecks. Bought a burner phone. Packed a go bag behind locked laundry room doors. The investigator found them. Rachel in Seattle, hospitalized after he disappeared with her inheritance. Marta in Denver, fired when anonymous emails accused her of stalking him. Sunita in Austin, showing me identical spreadsheets. Subject 7, high empathy. Exploit via pet death narrative. Her voice shook. They call themselves collectors. Not for money. For the win. We're human trophies. Rachel sent security footage. Him at a bar, laughing with buddies as they compared notes. Mine wrote poetry after discard phase. Pathetic. Mine tried to jump off a bridge. Ultimate validation. Their high fives made me vomit into a potted fern. The discard began subtly. First, forgot our date night. Then, criticized my laugh, kinda shrill, babe. When I tearfully confronted him, he sighed. Your abandonment trauma's flaring. You're pushing me away. Classic phase 1. I played my countermove. Maybe I need space too, I said, eyes downcast. Staying at mom's. His relief was palpable. Smart. Work on yourself. He didn't know mom died when I was 14. The mom's house was a rented room. Walls papered with victim photos, timelines, chat logs. A shrine to his destruction. For 3 days, I mapped his network. Echo_7, his college roommate, now a divorce lawyer. Hunter_01, a psychologist leaking therapy notes. The mentor, shadowy figure directing advanced plays. My wedding dress arrived. Ivory silk. He texted, can't wait to see you in it. Forever starts soon. I photographed it crumpled in a dumpster. Sent to Rachel. Her reply, burn it all. D-Day was Tuesday. His golf trip. I transferred every penny from our joint account. Left the engagement ring on his manifesto. Added a sticky note. Subject terminated experiment. P.S. Peonies make me sneeze. Then I pressed send. Every screenshot. Every video. Every spreadsheet. To his mother, devout Catholic. His CEO, ethical leadership advocate. Every woman in his contacts. The DA's office. Local news tip line. Chaos erupted at 9:03 a.m. His mother, monster. I raised a monster. His boss, you're fired. Expect charges. Victim number 3, I know what you did to Lena. His phone lit up, dozens of notifications flashing in the dark bedroom where I waited. He burst through the door at noon, face gray with panic. What did you do? I sat calmly on our bed, go bag at my feet. Leveled the game board. For the first time, I saw real emotion on his face. Not anger. Fear. The collector realizing he'd been catalogued. The police arrived as he lunged. She's framing me. She's unstable, he screamed. The officer scanned my evidence folder. Sir, step away from the laptop. Cuffs clicked. His eyes met mine, pure, animal hatred. You're dead. At the precinct, the detective offered coffee. It's fraud. Stalking. Psychological torture. I stared at my hands. Clean. Empty. No ring. It's survival. Outside, rain fell. Same rain as our first I love you. I walked into it. Let it wash him away. Freedom felt like falling through ice. That first night in the safe house, I bolted awake screaming. No nightmares, just silence. The absence of his breathing beside me was louder than any sound. I paced until dawn, flinching at headlights. Did he post bail? Is Echo_7 tracking me? The detective called it trauma response. I called it survival math. 3 locks on the door. 2 escape routes mapped. 1 knife taped under the table. Coffee tasted like ash. I'd forgotten how to make it for one. Rachel flew in from Seattle. Found me curled on the floor counting cracks in the ceiling. Hey, Subject 28, she said, dropping a bag of greasy diner food. The dark joke cracked me open. We wept over fries, comparing scars. Did he tell you you're not like other girls? Use the wounded bird script when you cried? Record your breakdowns? Our shared vocabulary of betrayal. The legal machine ground slow. His lawyer painted me as hysterical. Where's the physical evidence? He sneered in deposition. Emotional fraud isn't illegal. The DA slid a photo across the table, Lena's wrists, scarred from her bridge attempt after he drained her accounts. We'll make it illegal. I became a ghost in my own life. Changed my name. Cut my hair. Moved towns. But mirrors became traps, I'd see her in reflections. The woman who believed lightning meant destiny. The fool holding popcorn while a predator whispered poetry. I'd scrub my skin raw, trying to shed her. The nightmares weren't of him. They were of me. Standing at the altar in ivory silk, saying I do while he smirked. Signing papers as he transferred my inheritance. Waking up at 35 in a loveless marriage, my spirit annotated in his spreadsheets. Asset depleted. Recommend discard. Therapy was demolition work. His love wasn't counterfeit, Dr. Evans said. It was a weapon. You didn't fall for a lie. You were hunted. She handed me a rock. Throw it at that wall. I stared. Why? Because he taught you to hold everything inside until it poisons you. Shatter something. The window cracked. The rock thudded into dirt. We sat in the ringing silence. Good, she said. Now breathe. I started rebuilding with rubble. Bought purple sheets he'd hate. Played Paul Simon at full volume. Ate ice cream without hot sauce. Small rebellions. Tiny reclaimings. Then the letter arrived. No return address. Typed font. You think you won? You just reset the game. New players. New rules. I always find my subjects. The collector. My hand shook. Rachel's voice tied on the phone, it's a Hoover. Ignore it. But that night, I dreamt of spreadsheets with infinite tabs. 3 years later, I sat with Rachel at our old college cafe. The bell above the door jingled. I didn't flinch. Remember when he'd order for you? She asked, stirring her tea. Oat milk latte, 2 sugars, extra hot. Like a command. I lifted my cup, black coffee, lukewarm. Tastes better when you choose it yourself. Outside, a young woman cried over her phone. I recognized the shaking shoulders. The desperate swipe at tears. That particular shade of broken. I slid into her booth. Handed her a napkin. He make you feel like you're going crazy? She nodded, mute. Give me your phone. I typed Rachel's number. Text her the word peonies. She'll understand. Walking home, I passed a jewelry store. In the window, a twisted copper wire heart gleamed under lights. The tag read, imperfect. Handmade. I bought it. Clasped it around my neck. Healing isn't never feeling broken. It's learning to trust your cracks. To let light in without fearing who might slip through. To the one still replaying his lies, your heart wasn't fooled. It was robbed. And you survived the theft. That makes you no one's victim. That makes you wildfire. Real love doesn't need a lightning strike to feel electric. It glows in the dark. Quietly. Unbreakably. Yours. If your story's still being written, hit subscribe. Let's turn the page together. 15. The sound that broke me wasn't a scream or a slammed door. It was the click of my grandmother's heirloom vase shattering on the hardwood floor. I stood frozen in the doorway, grocery bags slipping from my hands. Apples rolled toward my daughter's designer boots. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared at the shards of cobalt blue scattered like broken promises between us. "Oops," she said, her voice smooth as ice. "Guess you shouldn't have left it where people walk." I remember bending down, fingers trembling as I reached for the largest fragment, the one with the tiny golden hummingbird I'd traced 1,000 times as a child. A hand slammed down on mine. Not hard. Just enough to make my bones ache. "Leave it," she commanded. "The maid will get it tomorrow." Except we hadn't had a maid since she drained my savings account for her entrepreneurial venture. I stayed crouched, watching a drop of blood bloom on my thumb where the porcelain bit. It felt like the only real thing left. Rewind 6 years, her college graduation day. Sunlight dappling through oak trees as she crossed the stage, beaming. When she hugged me, she whispered, "You're my rock, Mom." Later, at the restaurant, she'd cut her steak into tiny pieces and placed half on my plate. "You barely eat when you're stressed." Everyone marveled at her thoughtfulness. I swelled with pride. My daughter. My miracle after 3 miscarriages. My reason for surviving the divorce. The first crack appeared subtle. A dinner party for her new boss. I'd spent days cooking. As I brought out the crown roast, she tilted her head, voice syrupy, "Mom, that dress. Didn't I donate it last month?" Heat crawled up my neck. 12 eyes pinned me. "I must have missed that," I stammered. She patted my arm. "We'll clean your closet tomorrow. Promise." Later, washing dishes, I heard her laugh float from the living room, bless her heart. Stuck in 2003. The sponge in my hand dissolved into shreds. Her temporary stay after graduation became permanent. My study became her meditation zone, my books boxed for mental clarity. I'd find her scrolling through my phone. "Just deleting spam, Mama. You click everything." When I protested, tears welled in her eyes. "After all I sacrificed for Columbia? You don't trust me?" The gaslighting tasted like poisoned honey. "You forgot to pay the cable bill again." I'd watched her sign the check. "Dr. Miller said you need less salt, remember?" Her yoga instructor, not my cardiologist. "Dad didn't abandon us, you pushed him away." A lie that stole my breath nightly. I started writing things down. Times. Dates. Quotes. A pink notebook hidden under the furnace filter. October 12th, told me my perfume smells like hospice. November 3rd, sold my pearl earrings, investing in our future. December 18th, if you report your card stolen, I'll lose my apartment. One Tuesday, she brought home a rescue greyhound. "Meet your grand dog, Mom." The dog trembled, ribs visible. "He needs stability," she declared, handing me the leash. That night, it peed on my Persian rug, a wedding gift from her father. She sighed from the doorway. "Poor thing. It senses your anxiety." I scrubbed on hands and knees, tears mixing with enzyme cleaner, while she live-streamed rescuer self-care in the next room. The dog vanished 2 weeks later. "Rehomed him," she shrugged. "Too reactive." I found the adoption papers in the shredder. Under reason for surrender, she'd checked, owner unable to provide calm environment. My name. The hospital bracelet felt like a shackle. "Dehydration and low sodium," the nurse said. "Your daughter mentioned you've been forgetful." I stared at the 4-needle taped to my vein. She'd brought me here after I fainted during her investor pitch. Except I hadn't fainted. I'd flinched when she grabbed my arm too hard, a movement caught only by an elderly man watering his begonias across the street. He appeared at my door days later, clutching flyers for his church. His eyes lingered on the bruise blooming beneath my sleeve. My Ruth, he said softly, she had that look too. Before our son moved her to memory care. He pressed a torn envelope into my hand. Inside, a support group address, hidden wounds, parents of abusive adult children. I went. Sat in a circle of hollow-eyed fathers and trembling mothers. Listened to stories that mirrored mine. My son threatens to keep the grandkids from me. She convinced the bank I have dementia. He smashed my late husband's urn when I said no to a loan. That night, I confronted her. I know about the support group. She froze mid-sip of Chardonnay. Then laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, Mom. Those people are professional victims. She knelt before me, took my hands. I've shielded you from how bad your memory's gotten. Remember when you left the stove on? Or forgot Aunt Carol's funeral? Her thumb stroked my knuckles. Let me protect you. I almost believed her. Until I found the vial. Tucked in her lingerie drawer, behind silk I'd paid for, prescription lorazepam. My prescription. The one I'd misplaced last month. The dosage instructions altered, take 2 nightly for agitation. My real dose was half a tablet, twice weekly. The room tilted. I remembered the fainting spell. The salty broth she'd insisted I drink before the pitch. The way my tongue felt thick for days. I hired a lawyer. A woman with eyes like flint. We'll file an elder abuse restraining order, she said, sliding photos across her desk. The bruise. The shredded adoption papers. The altered prescription bottle. But you'll need to evict her. The eviction notice trembled in my hand as I taped it to her bedroom door. She ripped it down, corners tearing. After everything? Her voice cracked. I gave up Paris for you. I managed your life. For a heartbeat, the little girl who'd clung to me during thunderstorms surfaced. Then it vanished. Fine, she hissed. But you'll beg me back when you can't find your pills. Or when you fall. She moved out that weekend. Took the silverware, my mother's paisley shawl, and every family photo with my face visible. Left behind, unpaid utility bills, a half-eaten yogurt, and the pink notebook, open on the kitchen counter. On the last page, in her looping script, subject shows increased paranoia. Monitor closely. Silence descended. Not peaceful. Suffocating. I'd wake gasping, convinced I heard her key in the lock. My reflection looked unfamiliar, like someone who'd survived a shipwreck. The text started innocuously. Need Dad's death certificate for insurance broken heart. Can you wire $500? Mugged at bus stop loudly crying face. Then escalated. Your new lawyer is scamming you. Call me. Found these online. Should I show Grandpa? Attached, photoshopped images of me slumped at a bar, eyes glassy. I blocked her. Changed locks. Installed cameras. Still, gifts appeared. A self-help book, Managing Age-Related Anger. A necklace with her birthstone, so you never forget your first mistake. Finally, an urn of artisanal ashes, with a note, for when the dog you got kicked out dies. The greyhound. She'd had him euthanized. I collapsed against the front door, dry heaving. That's when I saw it, the tiny, glittering camera lens nestled in the doorbell she'd installed for my safety. The courtroom smelled of lemon polish and despair. She wore cream silk, the color of innocence. Her lawyer painted me as a confused widow, grief manifests as paranoia, Your Honor. Then my attorney played the recordings. Voice memos I'd captured. Her hiss, who'll believe you? I'm your golden child. The smirk in her voice, nursing homes love dutiful daughters. Security footage. Her sneaking into my garden at 3 a.m. to plant gifts. The judge's knuckles whitened as he reviewed the altered prescription. Ms. Reynolds, he addressed my daughter, these are criminal acts. She finally looked at me. Not with rage. With cold calculus. I saved you, she whispered. From loneliness. From yourself. The restraining order was granted. 2 years. Healing isn't linear. Some days I still set 2 coffee cups out. Some nights I wake reaching for the pink notebook. But I bought new dishes, bold yellow ones she'd hate. Planted blue hydrangeas where the greyhound is buried. Joined a pottery class. My first lopsided bowl sits on the windowsill, holding keys to a life I'm rebuilding. The revelation came slowly. This wasn't about me failing as a mother. It was about her emptiness, a void she tried to fill by controlling me. Love shouldn't leave fingerprints. Or demand sacrifices that erode your soul. Last week, I passed her downtown. Arm in arm with an older woman, carrying boutique shopping bags. My daughter's laugh, that same melodic chime, floated across the street. The woman glowed under her attention. I didn't cross. Didn't warn. Just kept walking. Sometimes the deepest love is releasing someone to their own darkness, while choosing your own light. If you're relearning your worth, subscribe. Your story isn't over, it's finally yours.